Hey everybody, today I'm doing part 2 of the books that made me who I am, and today is the books that have changed and formed my faith. I have changed a lot over the years. I grew up a lot more fundamentalist, a little bit more Bible as an inerrant thing, and I've changed in what I think about the Bible and God and so many things. But for me, it all boils down to God as being a force of love in the universe, and that the point of our being here is to add to other people's love and add to bringing everybody into a community together. I feel like that is the ultimate point. I think that can be done several different ways. I've had years to change and think all these things through, so I'm not going to do it all in like a 11-minute video. So that said, I will show you the books that kind of have made me who I am. If you've read any of these or have questions about my faith or about resources, if you're a person who kind of started one way and you're going down a rabbit hole, I have a lot of friends that are trying to reconstruct who they are as a person of faith, and I think that's very valuable, but it's also very lonely and hard sometimes when you feel like nobody's understanding you, or the people that you have spent a lot of time with think so differently. So that said, that was a long introduction. I would love to hear what you think in the comments. So the first book that really affected my faith, I think, is Frankenstein. It is one of my all-time favorite books. Obviously, most people know what Frankenstein is about. A creator who made a creature out of death, trying to beat death. And what stuck out for me most, and you'll kind of get that from the first video if you watched it, which I'll link below, was Frankenstein's monster. I feel like could have been a lot different if people around him showed him beauty and showed him love and compassion and what it meant to be cared for. He only really turned into something that was mean and hateful and deadly after he was rejected, and I think that's how so many people are. So this book really made me think about how I view myself as a creation and how I should treat other people. This line in particular, when he learns how to read, "Accursed creator, why did you form a monster so hideous that even you turned from me in disgust? God in pity made man beautiful and alluring after his own image, but my form is a filthy type of yours, more horrid even from the very resemblance. Satan had his companions, fellow devils, to admire and encourage him, but I am solitary and abhorred." And this is, I have an illustrated Marvel edition, and that's a picture of him. And it just, every time I read that, I feel gutted, because my biggest wish for everybody is to feel like they have a place in the world and that they feel loved and accepted and worthy of life and love and beauty, because we all are. I don't care where you came from or what you are, I guess. Even Donald Trump, probably. I'm having a very difficult time with him right now. But I don't feel that should be hate for anyone. So that is a huge one for me. The second one is the Harry Potter series. And I didn't actually read this until I was a grown-up, which I think actually made a bit of a difference. I could probably have almost any of these lines on a t-shirt and feel like they formed part of my theology. But what I really loved about Harry, and especially the Deathly Hallows, was the idea of sacrificial love and going straight into death without worrying about what it might mean because you were doing it for someone else. And I think I try and live large and know I think about death a lot. It's one of those, I'm maybe not a morbid person, but I often have that in the back of my mind, because I feel like if you don't consider your mortality, you often will waste what you do with your life. So Harry, I feel like, had really kind of considered what he was doing and the cost of what he was doing, and still went for it. And so for that, I will always love Harry Potter. Another book, actually, which I didn't grab, it's in the other room, was Eat, Pray, Love. And while I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about Eat, Pray, Love because it was considered chick lit or whatever else, for me, when she's sitting, so many parts of it, so many parts of Eat, Pray, Love, I could also put on a t-shirt. I love when she is trying to sit with the discomfort of life and just accept it. I love when she is just sending love out into the universe for her ex-husband, regardless of what he was doing to her, because she needed that peace. I really love when she talks about feeding your soul and finding those places to give yourself self-care when you need it. I love when she's sitting on her bathroom floor and she hears something to her that feels like God. And I just, yes, I love that book. So you know what the cover looks like. Everybody's seen that. So I'm not going to go get it. Next up is actually written by a friend of mine, and it's The Hallelujah Life by Richard Propst. Richard, if you know him, is the most self-abasing. He has no problem with humor to get through horrible things. His memoir, this is one of his first books. His first book, I think he has a second one out now. He has spina bifida. He is also a double leg amputee and currently is doing a wheelchair cross-state, not race, but tour to get awareness for domestic violence victims. That's the kind of person that Richard is. So I will go ahead and actually link him down below as well. But Richard writes in this I was hard reading because it's very graphic. There's a lot of trigger warnings for rape, abuse in here, suicide. It was like reading his journal in a lot of parts. But for me, the part, and I think I've read this on here before, for me was this poem that he wrote. It's called The God I Believe In. Most people find it ludicrous when I say that I felt God's presence that day on the playground. If God was really with you, they exclaim, why didn't he reach down and pluck you right out of that sandbox and out of harm's way? I just chuckle. I've never believed in a plucking God, but in a God who would walk with me through the fire. I believe in a God who would be raped right alongside me, feeling my pain and experiencing my humiliation. And I believe in a God whose love is more powerful than hate and who dwells within every scar and every memory. I believe in a God who never lets go and who fights like hell so that I will never forget what it means to be loved. And without going into detail about other things, I always had a hard time thinking of God as somebody who knew everything was going to happen and would let bad things happen to people. And I have since changed how I view the divine. I feel like God is right there with us, trying to help us get through the muck of the mire, and oftentimes letting that stuff happen to its own being, its own divine presence. And for me, the first time I read that, I just wept and wept and wept because I felt like I could reconcile the God that I knew of love with bad things. And so, yeah, for that, and it's so short, but it really packs a big punch. I recommend that for this one for anybody who's dealing with suicidal thoughts, domestic violence, abuse, so many things. This is a great one for depression. That said, also The Shack, which of course everybody knows about because it's being a movie right now, which I still have not seen. This for me was influential in creating different images of God for me. I grew up, white fundamentalist, and God was an old bearded person. And now for me, I think I probably see God more as a loving, kind of chubby, Molly Weasley body. And actually, yeah, much more maybe African-American. I don't know. I see a very different divine being than I used to, and probably because of this book. So yeah, The Shack. And it's also a great one for somebody who is trying to figure out what God looks like for them. Now, this one might win the award for the the faith person that I am today. And it's a Brian McLaren. This is the first of his trilogy, the New Kind of Christian series. And the subtitle is A Tale of Two Friends on a Spiritual Journey. The best way I can explain this book is it felt like the Matrix meeting someone coming out of fundamentalist Christianity. And I don't think I could say much about this without, I'm very grateful to Brian McLaren for writing this and his other books. But the thing that really stuck out in here was the idea that a lot of people build their faith like a skyscraper. And if a bottom rung falls, apart, then the whole thing topples down. And he recommended building your faith more like a spider web, where you shift one thing and it changes the shape of the web, but it doesn't tear it all apart. And yeah, I'm constantly reimagining what the divine looks like to me, what life looks like, what faith looks like, what purpose of life looks like. And I'm totally fine with it because of this book and because of Brian McLaren. So, yeah. Next up is so irreverent and wonderful. And it doesn't really affect my faith so much, but it has pulled me out of so many hard times. And I've given this book away several times. It's Hyperbole and a Half: Unfortunate Situations, Flawed Coping Mechanisms, Mayhem, and Other Things That Happen by Allie Brosh. And she has done a blog, and I think she's getting ready. I feel like there's another thing coming out, a book, I'm hoping, because I would love like a sequel and all the books by her. And they're just very simple drawings, and some of them are just very funny incidences. It's called Hyperbole because, yes, they're all based in fact, but she might have kind of gone overboard when telling the story. Also, her blog is great, but she talks very candidly about depression and going through hard times and people not understanding why you can't just snap out of it. And there's also a chapter in here called The Cake God that I've just cried laughing over. It was one of the only things that can make me laugh when I have gotten depressed. And a couple of my friends have also said the same thing. So Hyperbole and a Half, because I feel like faith and hard times go together, and humor is a great, great thing to help you through all that. And finally, the most recent addition to my faith formation is The Grapes of Wrath. You guys have heard me talk about this a million times, and I'll link the review below, but this book made me raw, literally. Like, you should see this. I took a selfie of myself after I was done reading it, and I was just pouring down tears. My pastor actually referred to it a couple years ago in a sermon, and I knew I had to read it after that. But for me, what stuck out from this book was that, again, the divine is in the ordinary and the regular life. It's not in the high fancy mountaintop experiences. It's in the death and the loss and the poverty and the community that pulls around you. And for me, and Casey, one of the main characters, is an ex-preacher who just feels like he had to throw everything he knew away and rebuild, but he can't stop thinking about the divine. And for me, I'm Casey, although I would love to also be Mama Jode. So those are the books that kind of made me the faith person that I am. Do you have books that have done that to you, whether they're fiction or nonfiction? Have you read any of these? Do you have questions? And again, I will go ahead and link my Goodreads account as well as, I think, my Instagram below. If you are somebody who is struggling, kind of leaving a faith that you grew up with, whether it's Christianity or not, and you feel like you want to have somebody to talk to about that, I'm here because I know it's isolating and lonely sometimes. So go ahead and message me, and I would love to have a conversation with you about what that feels like. If you just need somebody to listen, that's okay too. So I will talk to you all later. Bye.